Welcome to this week's episode of The Buzz. Now, this is a very special episode because we are going to be doing a 20 in 20. Basically, I have 20 minutes to go through every single Premier League team and how I think they're going to get on this season. I could do a minute on every team if I wanted, but I might go a little bit longer for some and a little bit shorter for another. Okay, the first team is Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth are always okay, I think, even though they've lost Iraola. And I know they lost the menu last season, but I mean, last season they lost their whole defence and were still brilliant. They got into Europe. I think they'll be okay. Obviously, with Marco Rosa, it's a little bit of the unknown. The transfer window is still open as well. So could the likes of Alex Scott be on his way out of the club? They've, of course, lost Senesi as well, who was a big part of their back line. I think they'll be okay. I'm still thinking around mid-table. They have got European fixtures as well, so that could play a part. But for Bournemouth, I think they'll be all right. Next up is Arsenal. Now, my opinion on Arsenal hasn't changed. I think they will be champions for a second season in a row. And when I look at all of the other teams in the Premier League table this season, they've got the best squad. They've got a manager that's got them over the line, which was obviously missing. And watching their performance in the Community Shield. Now, I know it's still a pre-season friendly. It is. I don't care what anyone says, but they just looked ready, and that was without Declan Rice. That was without Saka, without Yuri Timber, without Saliba. And the addition of Bruno Guimaraes to that midfield is just ridiculous. When you think of that midfield, it's going to be Declan Rice and Bruno, I imagine, for most of the games. They've still got Martin Zubimendi. I know Miles Lewis-Skelly was linked with a move away, but even after that performance, you think he could be a really handy player. Zolis on the left-hand side looks like he's settled in really well. I still think they maybe need another attacker alongside Kai Havertz and Gyökeres, but for me, I think Arsenal will win the league this season, and I'm not even sure there'll be a title race. I think they will win it comfortably. Okay, next up is Aston Villa. As you can tell, I'm going alphabetically. Aston Villa, again, lost some huge players. Yuri Tielemans, who was so good for them last season. Lost Morgan Rogers, who over the season was maybe a little bit inconsistent, but when he was good, he was so good. But I put it down to Unai Emery. It is Unai Emery. He is a magician. He is one of the best managers in the Premier League. And I think he will always make sure Villa are okay. I'm keen to keep an eye on Alejandro Garnacho. Can Unai Emery be the manager that can maybe get him firing and maybe back to the Alejandro Garnacho we did see in the early days at Manchester United? But yeah, I think Villa, I'm not sure they'll finish as high as they did this season, but they'll always be okay with Unai Emery. Brentford, again, Keith Andrews for me last season was one of the managers of the season, what he did with that squad after Thomas Frank left. I'm not quite sure anyone thought that was going to happen. They've got a similar squad. They've made a few additions. So I think Brentford, I mean, they could have got European football last season, only missed out very narrowly. I'm not quite sure. They may be in the running again, I don't know, but I think this season they'll be a little bit more settled. It's all a little bit more stable under Keith Andrews, so I think Brentford will be okay. Brighton, again, one of those teams that they just never seem to hire wrong, do they, Brighton? And again, I think they've got European football this season, which is pretty good. I mean, no one would have expected that at the start of last season. Obviously lost Danny Welbeck. Now, I think Brighton may have issues this season scoring goals, and Danny Welbeck scored a fair few of them last season. But again, Brighton are one of those teams that their recruitment just always seems to be right. I know they've lost Van Hecker as well, but again, I don't see them being in any relegation battle. I don't see, I think with Hertzler, I think they'll just be probably mid-table again, and I think that's what Brighton fans will be buzzing about. I mean, European football at the Amex is all they could have asked for. Again, whether that'll have an effect on them maybe later in the season because of how many games they're going to be playing, and I expect them to go far, by the way, in that competition. So yeah, maybe they'll slip down the table a little bit in the Premier League, but a European run would be great for them. We're on number 5 and we're on 15 minutes. That's pretty good so far. Okay, next up is my team. It's Chelsea. I could be talking about them for the next 15 minutes, but I'm going to try and keep it to a couple. Very, very excited about this season under Xabi Alonso. I think where I've been speaking about European games having a negative effect on some teams, obviously Chelsea playing one game a week, not being in Europe, I think this is the key to why I think Chelsea will have a very good season. We saw it with Manchester United last season, them getting into the top top four. They finished third pretty comfortably in the end. And I think it will have a similar effect on Chelsea. Xabi Alonso is one of the most exciting young managers in the world of football right now. Listen, there's a reason why Jose Mourinho was brought in at Real Madrid to sort that out, because it was a mess. But when you look at what he did with Bayer Leverkusen, winning the league when Bayern Munich are still in it, was absolutely insane. And yeah, I'm excited to see playing a back three. It looks like he's been playing a back three for the last couple of games in pre-season. We all know what happens when Chelsea play a back three. It just seems to work. It's giving me Antonio Conte flashbacks, and we all know what happened that first season. Really like the new signings. Very excited to watch Cole Palmer and Morgan Rogers play together. Still, I think a lot of business to be done at Chelsea. A lot of outgoing, still undecided on what Enzo Fernandez is going to do. Personally, at the time of recording, he's still a Chelsea player, but it wouldn't surprise me if he is a Manchester City player before the end of the window. And if that does happen, then because of the season he had, I mean, I'm sort of hoping Morgan Rogers is that replacement for Enzo Fernandez. But if so, Chelsea do need to then get another player in midfield to play alongside Moises Caicedo, perhaps even someone like Romeo Lavia, because we don't know. Obviously, he only completed 90 minutes for the first time in pre-season since he's been at the club. He is great, and I would have Caicedo and Enzo as a pair. However, we do need another addition if we were to lose Enzo Fernandez. But I think Chelsea will finish third, maybe second. Okay, Coventry, Super Frankie Lampard. He'll always have a special place in my heart, that man. I really hope they stay up. I really, really like the signing of Awoniyi. That was, came out of the blue, didn't see it coming. I still think they need to make a few more signings if they are going to stay in the Premier League. At the moment, it's really hard to not look past the three promoted clubs going back down. But if any of them were to surprise me, like Sunderland did last season, because I did think they would go down, and they just, by getting into Europe, just amazed everyone, I would love it to be Coventry and Frank Lampard, but we will see. Crystal Palace, again, another team with a new manager. It's going to be very hard to replicate what Oliver Glasner did at that football club. And again, I think with Palace, I don't think they'll be in a relegation battle. But again, there's change, and they've gone from such a high, from winning the Conference League and winning the FA Cup and winning the Community Shield and all those trophies being celebrated in the last 2 years. Again, fairly unknown with the new manager. And obviously with European football as well. They're playing in the Europa League this season. So yeah, I think with Palace it will still be like a mid-table, but I'm not quite sure if they'll have any more trophies to celebrate come the end of next season. Okay, Everton. I was a little bit, when I've been speaking about Everton, sort of, I've gone, well, they'll always be okay under David Moyes. I feel like I've said that a lot, but there are a lot of managers that bring stability to a football club. And David Moyes and Everton, I don't know if there's any better in terms of that. They haven't really obviously made or done much business this window. Jack Grealish has obviously left. He's gone back to Manchester City. Of course, he was only on loan. I really, really, really like the signing of Christian Norgard. I think that is a brilliant signing. What he is going to bring to that Everton midfield, I think is what they've been missing a little bit. I still think with Everton, obviously Dwight McNeil's left. He was good for Everton, and Brennan Johnson's been brought in, hoping maybe he can revive his career a little bit at Everton. Goal scoring, I still think, may be an issue for Everton this season. But again, I don't expect them to be in any trouble. And I expect them to, again, have another solid season under David Moyes. Okay, I'm on 10 now, and that is Fulham. Now, but this is really hard, right? Because Marco Silva did a brilliant job with Fulham. And again, Alvaro Arbeloa, I think, can't really judge what happened at Real Madrid because, as we know, that is a bit of a mess right now. Again, another young manager, fairly unproven. But I look at that Fulham squad and I don't want them to be in trouble because I really like Fulham. But you've lost Harry Wilson. We all know how good he was last season. You've lost Raul Jimenez, who again was a brilliant player. You've lost Lukic in midfield. And I just think that's quite a few big players to lose all in one season. I think if there was any team that I'm swaying towards maybe going down other than the three promoted clubs, it may be Fulham, but they've brought in Gonzalo Garcia. That's obviously a big statement signing, and maybe they're hoping that he can sort of cover what they're going to miss with the players that have been sold. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see on Fulham. Guys, I've absolutely smashed this, by the way. I'm 10 minutes in. Well, I've got 10 minutes and 30 seconds to go. and I'm on 11th place, and that is Hull City. Now, I feel bad because I feel like it is just a bit lazy saying that the 3 promoted clubs are going to go back down, but listen, I don't know enough about Hull City in the Championship last season to give like a really, really good analysis on how I think they're going to go. I think with Hull, for me, it's more just a wait and see. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know a lot about them. I'll obviously learn more about them because I do watch most Premier League games. So I'll learn more about them as the season goes on. But if I was to say right now what I think is going to happen, I do think they're going to go down. I could slow this right down. I've got Ipswich next. Again, I don't really have much to say on Ipswich. Obviously, they came up to the Premier League. They went back down. They've come up. However, they have got a new manager in Gary O'Neill, who obviously we know the job he did at Wolves. And actually, I think everyone was surprised at the time that he did get sacked when he did. He's gone over to Strasbourg, done a good job there. And he has now replaced Kieran McKenna. Now, I think that is big for Ipswich fans because they have a lot of love for Kieran McKenna and the job he did. But again, it's the unknown. I saw an interview with Gary O'Neill who said, I am 100% sure that Ipswich are going to stay in the Premier League next season. What I'm thinking is they need to have learned from their mistakes. But what I would suggest is maybe taking Liam Delap on loan, because Liam Delap scored 12 goals for Ipswich in the Premier League when they were last in it. And I think he could be a good addition to their side, and he needs to leave Chelsea to get some playing time and get his confidence back up. So if you're watching anyone, maybe Liam Delap to Ipswich. Okay, I've got Leeds United. Okay, I've got Leeds United. Now, I actually watched Leeds United. I was there for the Boyle Sports Cup against Manchester United in Dublin. I think the recruitment that they've done has been brilliant. And I think Daniel Farke getting them up to 13th, I think they finished in the Premier League, or 12th, something like that. Might even have been 11th, you know. The signings they've made, I think Harry Wilson is a brilliant signing. And the biggest of them all was definitely James Trafford. Their centre-back, I'm not going to try and pronounce his name because I actually don't know how and I don't want to get it wrong. But it just looks like they've got a very, very good, settled squad. I know Leeds fans are aiming high. They're thinking top half finish and obviously another cup run because they got to the FA Cup semi-final last season. I think it's positive for Leeds, and we all want Leeds in the Premier League. Leeds are a Premier League club, that is for sure. And I think with the signings they've made, they're only going in one direction, Leeds, and I think that is up. So yeah, very positive. Okay, on to Liverpool in 14th. We've just got 7 minutes and 47 seconds to go. Again, another team with a new manager. When Iraola got the job, I just thought it was the perfect fit. And I know we keep talking about Jurgen Klopp and we're going back to Jurgen Klopp, but to me, Bournemouth play football in a similar way to how Liverpool play under Jurgen Klopp. And I think it's a perfect fit. Now, their defence does need sorting out a little bit. They are a little bit light. Jeremy Jacquet's come in. I think he played really well in a pre-season game. There's a lot of Liverpool fans talking on X about him. But they are light. Now, they have been linked to Bradley Barcola from PSG. Now, he's been left out of PSG squads recently. And for me, this would be the signing of the window. I genuinely believe that. If Bradley Barcola goes to Liverpool, for me, that's the signing of the window. He is everything that I love in a winger. He can use both feet. He's direct. His finishing is unbelievable. I mean, I only had to watch Chelsea against Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League last season in both legs. He absolutely destroyed us. And yeah, for whatever reason, he wants to leave. Maybe it's to get more playing time. And Liverpool definitely need something in that attack. Obviously losing Mo Salah. I know he didn't have the best of seasons last season, but they are losing Mo Salah. We don't know what's going to happen with Cody Gakpo. He might be going to Spurs as well. So it's still fairly unknown with Liverpool. I think they need Florian Wirtz and Alexander Isak to have very big seasons, given it was a little bit, obviously Alexander Isak was injured for a lot of the season and Wirtz maybe didn't quite live up to the expectations after arriving. So listen, I think everyone's thinking Liverpool might fall off, but I think they maybe could quietly surprise us. But again, it's fairly unknown. Manchester City, I don't want to again read too much into the Community Shield, but to lose like that against the team that you're in a title race in last season, obviously they've lost Pep Guardiola, they've lost John Stones, they've lost Bernardo Silva, they've lost Rodri. They are 4 of their best players players, 3 of their best players, and their manager, Pep Guardiola, the best manager in the world. How they are going to cope with life without him. We saw what happened when Sir Alex Ferguson left Man United. They haven't won a league title since. What is going to happen with Manchester City? Enzo Maresca was like Pep's disciple, wasn't he? He was with him for the treble-winning season, and he has had a managerial job at Chelsea. Did fairly well. I think most Chelsea fans would say he did okay. I'm very, very intrigued to see how they get on this season. Obviously, Jack Grealish is back. They're about to buy Buadi, because I think it would be a good signing. And they obviously want Enzo Fernandez as well, but I don't know how you can replace Rodri. The one after the World Cup he had, I really don't know. I expect City to be up there because they've got some very, very good players. Obviously, they're still Manchester City. They've still got Erling Haaland, and they've still got some very, very, very good players. But yeah, fairly unknown with Manchester City. Okay, I've got just under 5 minutes to go and I've got 5 teams left. Okay, we're moving on to the other Manchester team, in Manchester United. Now, obviously, under Michael Carrick, they did exactly what they needed to do last season, got the job done at getting Champions League football. This season, I'm very intrigued to see how they get on, because I think European football, it can either go one of 2 ways, European football. It can have such a positive effect if you keep on winning and you get far in competitions and it just gives you confidence. And that could happen for a team like Manchester United. I'm just wondering how that squad is going to cope when you're playing 2 games a week for pretty much the whole season. Last season, they went out of both cups pretty early. So they literally had genuinely just playing Premier League football, had a big rest. Again, when you've got Bruno Fernandes in your team, it's always going to be brilliant. Andre Santos is a good signing. And Yuri Tielemans is also a very good signing. Is it enough, I think, is the question mark. Do Manchester United still need to go out and get something different? Is that midfield issue? Obviously, Casemiro's left and he actually contributed a lot last season in terms of not just being a good midfielder, but scoring goals as well and popping up when they needed him. Yeah, so is that enough for Manchester United? And they have got some really good defenders. They've got Aiden Heaven. They've got Lenny Yoro. Do they need a left-hand side player? Obviously, Luke Shaw played every minute last season, but could they also get Lewis Hall? So I'm not sure if Manchester United's business will be done yet. I still think we may see them buy a player before the end of the window. Newcastle United, wow, it's been a summer of hell. Can I call it that? They've obviously lost their captain in Bruno Guimaraes. They've lost Sandro Tonali, his partner in midfield, one of the best midfields in the league. They've lost Anthony Gordon down that left-hand side as well. And biggest of all, they've lost Eddie Howe, obviously leaving the day before pre-season started, which wasn't ideal for Newcastle. Obviously, they've got a very young manager coming in and he's excited, and it's really hard for Newcastle fans to be like upbeat about the season, but how do you go and replace all those players that have left? And you've got to try and do that as well as bringing in a new manager. I don't think the expectations for Newcastle should be too high, but I don't believe they're not going to be in a relegation battle. They've got far too many good players to be involved in anything like that. I just think it will probably be a mid-table finish for Newcastle. And actually, I think Newcastle fans would probably take that. Actually, let me know, Newcastle fans, what are you expecting from this season? Because, yeah, it's been a tough summer, to say the least. Okay, I've got just over 2 minutes to go, and I've got Forest, Sunderland and Spurs. So Nottingham Forest mainly kept their players, obviously lost Elliot Anderson, who, that's always going to be tough to fill the void of him. But I think with Forest, I actually, when I did like a little Premier League predictions thing, and I put them quite high up. I don't know. I'm a bit stuck with Forest because they're not. I don't think they're going to be in a relegation battle, but I also not quite sure they're going to be up there for European football. So I'd probably just say mid-table for Nottingham Forest. But what I would say about them is that they have a very, 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 very good manager. And if there was ever a time for them to go on maybe a domestic cup run in the FA Cup or the League Cup, it would be now, because we know what Oliver Glasner did at Crystal Palace. So can he emulate that at Forest? I think they would be very happy if they did. Right, I have 2 teams left. I've got about 30 seconds for each. The first one is Sunderland. Now, I have been saying Sunderland had a little fall off. They did have a little fall off towards the end of the season, but then they picked it up again at the end of the season, and it was a straight shootout between them and Chelsea, what ended up being for Europa League football, and they got it. European football at the Stadium of Light. That is what those fans deserve. It's a brilliant football club, and they were absolutely brilliant last season, and they exceeded expectations expectations beyond anyone's wildest imaginations. No one thought that was going to happen as a newly promoted club. They kept Granit Xhaka as well, which I think is huge. So I think, Sunderland are going to be class next season. And finally, Spurs, 30 seconds left, made some very, very good signings. They cannot be in a relegation battle for the third season in a row. I think Tonali is an absolutely brilliant signing. Van Hecker's a very good signing. Senesi is a very good signing. And they have got Roberto De Zerbi as well. They need to get players back fit. James Maddison, Dejan Kulusevski. I still think scoring goals is going to be an issue for Spurs, but I expect them to push for European football next season. Oh my God, look! Bang on. Timer. Let me just turn that off. There we go. The timer's going off. That was my 20 Premier League clubs in 20 minutes. I think I went a little over for some, but a little under for some others. But I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know if you agree. Let me know your thoughts and how you think different Premier League clubs or your Premier League clubs are going to get on in the league this season and in all the cups you're in as well. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll be here each week on The Buzz, giving you my thoughts and doing different things for different videos each week. But thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.